All right, welcome to the podcast. Hanging out with Jeff Meszaros. Did I get your last name reasonably correct?
Reasonably, yeah, that
Good.
sounds good to me.
So Jeff's an artist. His company's called Jam Bottle Cap Art. If anybody's seen any of your stuff, it's so cool. And we've been lucky enough to have you at a couple of our festivals in Edmonton and Calgary to kind of showcase some of the stuff that you do, but also you've created a few pieces of art for us. So yeah, every time I'm at the office, I'm looking at it going, and anytime someone walks into the office, they're like, what is that? And they have to like touch it and look at it. So yeah, anytime I can share your story or hang out and learn more about you, I'm happy to do it. So thanks for being on the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
So let's start off by just like kind of a day in the life, I guess, like describing to people that maybe have never heard about you and what you do. What is it that you do? Describe what your art is.
Well, in a nutshell, I take bottle caps that regularly would have been tossed in the garbage and I save them and I flatten them and then I layer them like fish scales in a mosaic type pattern. And I create mostly portraits. That's something that I've been known to do, and I've grown fond of making portraits of people. But yeah, I do other subject matter as well. But I take thousands of bottle caps and I array them in a way that is pleasing to the eye, and up close. Can't really tell what it is. You can see all the unique logos and breweries and cideries and everything that's in there. And then you take a step back and it all comes together and it turns into a mosaic.
Yeah. And what's cool is if somebody sees it from far away, they see, what the image is, right? Mm-hmm. And it's impressive, but then they have to get close because they have to be like what is that exactly? So you see them like touching it and like, whoa. But then if they do it the opposite way, where sometimes if they come into the office, they're like right up against it and they're like looking at it, it's like, okay, it's bottle caps, but like, and then they have to step back and be like, So it's kind of cool because no matter how you first experience it, seeing it the other way is mind blowing.
I think it's one of my favorite reactions is to see people viewing it from afar first, and then that moment of realization where they get just close enough where they're like, oh, those are bottle caps, and then they go right in and they're exploring, and they see all the unique caps that they can find in there, or they reminisce like, oh, I remember the night that we drank all those Pacificos in Mexico and this happened or whatever, and it sparks memories and stories and stuff like that. So it's one of the coolest things as an artist to see people like just have that moment of realization as to what it is actually. So it's a really cool thing.
So it's cool, but on some level, I mean, unique would be a good way to describe it. Original. Where did this idea come from? Because I'm guessing there's not a lot of bottle cap artists in the world. So it's not like you joined a fraternity of bottle cap artists, right? So where did the idea originally come from to do something like this?
Yeah, so we'd have to rewind way back to, I think, around 2007. Yeah, so about 18 years ago now. I was a young bartender, and my parents, they had just gone on vacation and they were showing me photos of their trip that they went on with their friends. And they would just lay the bottle caps out in little designs on their coffee table where they were at. And something in my head just was like, oh, like, I think I can do something cool with that. Like, I have access to all these bottle caps as a bartender, so I'll just save them on my shift and try and come up with something. And so I didn't really know what I wanted to do at first, but I knew it has to be some sort of mosaic type, pattern. They're all little pixels essentially, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm a big music buff too. I play music. I used to be in bands. I'm a big Beatles fan. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I've never seen a portrait in bottle caps. Like, I went online, back in, 2007, Google was still pretty young, I guess, but I went on Google and was like, okay, bottle cap, mosaic, what's out there, just to get inspiration. And, you would see people making little crabs or a fish or a pineapple or something like that. And I was like, okay, well, I don't see what I'm picturing in my head. So I guess I'll just have to come up with something. So I found that iconic photo of John Lennon. He's got the, his round glasses and just looking straight into the camera. I was like, okay, like this is going to be something that I would like to try and replicate with bottle caps. And I just essentially, I went into Microsoft Paint and I just kind of painted, like I kind of painted over his glasses and his face and used the highlights and the lowlights and just tried to create a palette that I had with my bottle caps, because I didn't have all these skin tones and all this kind of stuff. I had reds and blues and yellows and whites and all this kind of stuff. So I just essentially made my own painting in Microsoft Paint. And I was like, okay, I think that would somewhat transfer with bottle caps, and got to work. I started laying some out and I was like, it just is kind of clunky if they're not flat. So I flattened a few and I'm like, oh, that's way better just layering them one on top of the other like that. And it just has a better look and it's just easier to work with. So I started hammering them down one at a time. And man, oh man, I was living with like 4 dudes in this, like, essentially, early 20s kind of frat house type thing. And I'm just down in the basement. That's where my room was, just hammering away on these bottle caps. And I'm sure I drove the other guys nuts. And I just, like, in my spare time, just tried to put it all together. And it took me 6 years, that very first piece, just trial and error, what works, what doesn't. Oh, if I cut them in a certain way, I can layer them better. Oh, if I use a nail gun, that's way easier than trying to hold a little tiny finishing nail with needle nose pliers and hitting it with a hammer. Like, like just discovery after discovery. And so that was like the proof of concept piece that really just was like, oh, okay, it can be done. And then when I finished it, I was like, oh, okay, here it is. It's all come together, like pretty much how I was picturing it. And then a friend of mine was opening a bar and he saw it and he was like, whoa, I've never seen anything like that. So, like, could you make me one? And I was like,
yeah, sure.
absolutely.
In 6 years.
Yeah, I didn't tell him. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll make you one, no problem. And that one took me, I think, probably 3 or 4 months, because by that point I kind of figured out how to do it. I definitely didn't tell him it took 6 years, but he didn't need to know that. And I always work better under pressure. So, a little bit of a timeline. I was like, okay, he opens in December and it's like August now. So yeah, I can get it done by December. No problem. And then, yeah, that's kind of how it all started. And so that was, like I say, 18 years ago, that first piece took 6 years. And so that puts you to about, 2014-ish. And that's when I was like, okay, I'll just kind of do this as a little side gig when, I went through school. I was working bartender just to like pay through school and stuff like that. And it was just always something that I had on the back burner and people liked it. And then it just snowballed. And well, here we are today. And
yeah,
it's quite the different scenario now as opposed to 11 years ago when I kind of like went, full on into it. So,
yeah. Mm-hmm. So how was at the beginning, was it really just word of mouth? Like people would see something and be like, oh, okay, cool. Can you do something for me?
Yep, pretty much. It was just word of mouth. And then this new thing called Instagram was kind of getting big. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I guess I might as well start an Instagram page. And I would just make a piece and, post one photo of it and then never look at Instagram again until I finished the next piece, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And that's like, it gained a little bit of traction on there. But I was okay with that. Like I was okay with just the word of mouth thing. And mm-hmm. that was enough to sustain me. I would make, one mosaic every month or two, or even longer sometimes. And I was totally fine with that because it was just always something that I had in the back pocket, and it was just fun to do. And I liked it. And it was a little extra cash for me. And the cost of entry was like virtually nothing, because all of my bottle caps, I was just saving at work. So it's like mm-hmm. free paint, right? Okay. Yeah. This is great. But yeah, I always had this little notion in the back of my head, like, could I go full time with this? Like, is this mm-hmm. something that could sustain my lifestyle? And I was always just kind of nervous to go for it. But I guess I'm sure you're going to ask, when did you decide to go full time? So I'm already talking about it. I'm
love it.
Go into it.
Absolutely.
It was almost 3 years ago now. I was working at this construction company, good management position, but the hours were just really long. And I had a baby, and my wife and I, like, we barely even saw each other. I had to move away, and I brought my family with me, but even though they were there, I barely got to see them. And all this time, I'm just thinking, how awesome would it be to just be able to work from home and set my own hours and like give this artwork a solid chance just to see
Mm-hmm.
what happens, right? And so I talked to my wife, and we kind of came up with a plan where it's like, let's give it a go for 1 year. Like that's like
Mm-hmm.
solid amount of time. We've saved up enough money to just like float us by for the next year comfortably, and let's give it a go. And I knew, I was like, okay, well, I have to come at this like, strategically, right? And so I can't just be posting one photo of the piece that I just finished and walk away from Instagram. Like I know as an artist in at the time 2022, I guess it was, I can't be just like posting and ghosting. Like I have to be active. This is how people are discovered nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
right? Either that or you go the gallery route. And I just, I figured if I don't need a gallery, probably better. Like if I can do this on my own, fantastic. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, took a year off and just went like full bore, and yeah, just one thing led to another, and like it exploded in the first year, and I'm just running with it, basically hit
That's
the ground
awesome.
running. So yeah,
So
long
what's
story
crazy?
longer.
I love it, man. No, what's crazy to me, what strikes me, and we've actually chatted about this before, but um, you have a newborn when you decide to go full time, and I find it interesting. I have two kids, and for myself, when I had my first baby, when we had our first baby girl, it just there was like almost like clarity in life in terms of like what I really wanted to do, but also what I really did not want to do.
Hmm.
And I found myself taking chances that I don't think in retrospect I probably should have taken, but I'm glad I did. So what was it for you that made you decide? Because that if someone's just listening, they're thinking that's the dumbest time to start taking risks. Why did it make sense to you?
Oh, a lot of people were questioning my decision for sure. But like you said, like I think you put it perfectly. When you have a baby, that's when things almost become more clear. You're like,
Mhm,
oh, I don't want to be working 16 hours a day and not seeing my family. So what
mhm,
can I do to change my life so that I do get to see my family? And that was probably that was the biggest reason in making that shift from like a good, management position to, risking art as a career, which is, not the most stable career for a lot of people. But, you know, I had to give it a go, and I
yeah.
wanted to be present for my family. And now I am. Like the last 3 years, I've been there with, watching my son grow in front of my eyes and being present. And
Mhm,
part of the reason too was a lot of the coworkers that I had at that job. I kind of like I just started asking them like, what's your biggest regret? Like I know you're doing good. You're like, in a good position in this company and all this kind of stuff. Like you've clearly made a name for yourself and whatnot. But like, what's your biggest regret? And I swear, everyone who had kids said, I just wish I was there with my kids. Like I had to
mhm,
leave my family essentially to travel to all these different sites to build these things, and I'm away from my family. So if I had to do it over again, I would take a different job so that I could be home every night or whatever it is. And
mhm,
so even these people that are very successful in their field were saying the things that I was thinking. Like, I don't want to be that guy. Like, yeah,
mhm.
whoopity doo, you're making good money and you're successful and you're killing it and stuff or whatever, but you're not there like with
Mhm.
your family. And I think that's the most important thing, is to be present and be there for my son and my wife and dogs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big part of it.
What's cool too, and I don't know your wife, but just by listening to you tell the story, because the there like if she was to say, "Are you crazy? No, stay at your job." She would have been right to say that. Like, so the idea that she supported you to be like, "Yeah, okay, let's take a year and just kind of see how it goes." Um, what did that mean to you?
Oh, that says volumes about who she is and how she believes in me. Like, that's there's some sort of saying behind every great man, there's like an even better woman or something. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the saying, but it is now. That's fully the case. Like she was like, okay, like if you believe in this, I believe in you, and let's do it, and let's make sure we're doing it right. Like,
Yeah.
and so she's a big part of this business. She essentially kind of walked away from her photography business. She's a professional photographer. She was, shooting a lot of weddings and lifestyle and family portraits and all this kind of stuff. And when our son came along, she had to walk away from that, as mothers do, oftentimes have to walk away from their jobs when they have kids. And instead of going back to that, she's like, okay, you need help. Like, you're getting super busy. Like, wow. I'm here. Let's do it. Like, I will be your administrator, and like behind the scenes, like she's just kind of running a lot of the stuff, a lot of the initial emails and like social media and that kind of stuff. Like she's a huge help. And so she's a massive part of the business, if you call it a business. But yeah, no, that's Lauren, and she's huge in my life. Like she's just like, very important. And we're a team, and it's awesome. Like I get a lot of people, like, if you say like, hey, do you want to work with your wife every single day? Like some people would be like, I like my kind of freedom and stuff, but I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like, it's awesome. Like, yeah, sure. We have our spats here and there, but we'll go and have lunch together and sort it out and then get back to it. And, it's great. So
that's cool.
I love working at home with my wife, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Nice. And that was one thing I was curious about too, is, you hear the term starving artist, because oftentimes artists are very, very good at creating art and very, very bad at the business side or the monetizing side of, of what the business part of it is. Right. So that's cool, because it sounds to me like you have that balance of, you're able to produce art, but meanwhile, the business component of it, which is obviously when you're trying to raise a family, so important, is being taken care of. So that to me is, I guess, is there any insight into that? Like, because there's so many artists out there that I'm sure could learn something from what you're doing in terms of taking what they do, what they are passionate about, and monetizing it.
Yeah, I think a lot of artists, in a weird way, it's almost like a brag. I know it sounds weird to like brag, to be like, I'm a starving artist. It's like this trope you're trying to just like live out or something like that. I don't know what it is. It's kind of self-defeating, or this weird self-fulfilling prophecy maybe, but like, yeah, obviously art is a business. Like, if you want to survive and make money with it, you have to think about it, at least in some small way, as a business. Like, yeah, you can be the most amazing artist, and if you don't have any business sense, then you may never get discovered. Some artists get lucky and someone discovers them, and the rest is history, kind of thing. But like, in this day and age, there's a lot of talented artists out there, and I see a lot of them just kind of missing the mark in a business way, or like a marketing way. I would say, like, if you're going to focus on anything, like, focus on marketing. Like, if you can tell a story and be authentic and just come at the world through social media from like a very authentic perspective, then people will start to identify with that. You know what I mean? There's like, with all the AI and all this generation of art and video and all this kind of stuff, like, I think there's a craving for just authenticity in this world. Like, yeah, sure, it's cool. There's this new toy AI is being dangled in front of everyone, and it's shiny and new and cool and stuff like that. But I think that that bubble is going to pop one day, and like, people are going to be like, I would prefer, watching someone create with their own hands and their own imagination and all this kind of stuff. So I think just, marketing yourself as authentic as you can, and just getting kind of creative with how you present yourself to the world, it will do wonders for you as an artist, or any business, really. Like, any business can apply this. Like, it's the attention economy, right? Like, if you can hold someone's attention for more than 3 seconds, like, you're doing really good, right? Like, even Instagram has that little thing. Oh, this reel could be more engaging. People are starting to drop off after 2 seconds. It's like 2 seconds. Like, why don't you have the attention span to just watch for more than 2 seconds?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, it just forces people to get more creative and just like
Yeah.
get more catchy. And I feel bad in a way because you're kind of feeding this beast that's like the
Right.
necessary evil, but like everybody's got to eat. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, your Instagram is hilarious because you get to like watch you kind of in a time lapse create these pieces of art.
Mm-hmm.
I'm maybe getting ahead of myself a little bit, but when I look at the art, like some of the portraits that you do, how do you capture the essence of it? Like, does that make sense? Because like there's so many where you look at it, like I think you have a Marilyn Monroe one, and it's just there's something about it that it's not just technically okay, yes, that's Marilyn Monroe, but there's something about it that it feels alive in a way.
Oh man, that's a really good question. I think a lot of it is in the eyes, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing that I will often redo on my mosaics several times. Almost every single time I will redo the eyes of the subject, just because that little glimmer in the eye, if it's not in just the right position or the right size, it just kind of looks a little off. So that's like one key that I focus on. Of course, you want to get the proportions right of, the facial features and everything, and shading and stuff like that. But yeah, the eyes are essential. So I think maybe that's what it is. And I spend the most time on the eyes, and
Yeah.
you just have to.
I was thinking that when you were mentioning the John Lennon one, because he was wearing his glasses, but they weren't sunglasses. They were just like normal
Yeah.
glasses, right? Because I was thinking that would have been a nice, easy first one, is if someone was wearing sunglasses, because then you
Yeah.
could kind of hide behind that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To capture the eyes would be hard. So you've done some big ones. I had a list here. So Blue Jays, Labatt. There's a few others that I'll talk about, obviously. But
Sure.
when did big clients start coming to you? Like,
so the first one was, I was actually in school in 2018, and the Chicago Bulls reached out to me. It was actually right around this time of year, in 2018. And I was at my lake in Saskatchewan. My phone was off. I was de-technologizing myself.
Yeah.
Weird word.
Not even a word, actually.
Yeah,
It is now.
I do that a lot. I'm like Michael Scott sometimes. I just like make up words or sayings and think it makes sense. But anyway, I was heading back into town, and I open up my email, and I see this email from the Chicago Bulls, and I'm like, that's weird. Is this some sort of like spam, like, hey, get your tickets to the next Bulls game or whatever? And I'm like, I don't live in Chicago. I've never subscribed to any of their newsletters or anything. And it was like I can't remember her title, marketing director or something like that, director of fan experience. And she was like, hey, we saw your work and we want to get a mosaic, a bottle cap mosaic. Can you make a Bulls mosaic out of all Budweiser caps? And I was like, I have 1 million Budweiser caps. So yeah, absolutely. And how big do you want it? And let's go 5 feet by 5 feet. I was like, whoa, this is the biggest piece I've ever made to date. For sure. And I'm like in school making this in my garage, studying at night, like trying to like, just juggle life, bartending as well, just to pay for school and everything. And yeah, that was like the first one. I think, people will often wonder like, oh, how many followers did you have when they reached out to you? I think I had like 800 followers or something. Wow. And I was like, wow, the Chicago Bulls reached out to this guy that has 800 followers and, commissioned a piece. And so I was like, okay, like there's some serious interest here, and made the piece for them, shipped it off. It's actually hanging in the offices in the United Center, which is really cool. And that was the first really big client that I got. And then since, I've had a couple more that have come along, and it's cool to put those kind of notches in your belt, those feathers in your cap of like
no doubt
big clients, right?
So this is probably a question for your wife, but how do you quote something like that out? You're just like, okay, they're the Chicago Cubs, so maybe they can pay more, but I don't want them to like.
Yeah, I didn't
know. So
this was like way before I had any business sense when it came to the artwork. And looking back, like I probably could have charged them oh geez, probably at least 5 times what I did at the time.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of going off of my base pricing that I would give to, the clients in Edmonton who were getting pieces, or Calgary or wherever, local, right? And so they, they said yes real quick. They're like, we'll take it. But yeah, I should have probably charged more, but that was a good lesson in like, okay, there's this corporate client coming after you. Obviously you're kind of like sought after in a way. And so, you got to value yourself. And that was kind of the first lesson in, just like ratcheting up my prices. Every time I would get, 3 people say yes to my pricing, I would just like bump it up a bit. And then the next 3, I'd bump it up a bit more. And people just kept saying yes. And I kept ratcheting up my prices. And I'm still doing that to this day. And it's still working. And that's speaking of business, business minded decisions as an artist, very good business minded decision. If people keep saying yes, you're not charging enough. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was a good lesson in
I like that.
For sure.
Okay, so let's talk about one that really caught my attention was when you you did a piece for Joe Rogan.
Correct.
So again, like we were talking about before we hit record, like obviously for some people a polarizing character, but like the biggest podcaster in the world, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that experience, because that just seems amazing.
Oh man. Yeah, that was wild. He started following me last summer, I guess it was. I just like opened up my Instagram, Joe Rogan started following you. I was like, whoa, that's pretty huge. That's like, Oprah, calling you up in 99 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, just the biggest platform, what, love him or hate him, whatever. You can't deny that he's got a loud microphone, right? And so I since he started following me, I messaged him. I just was like, hey, thanks for following me. Like you're an inspiration to a lot of people. Like he often will say, if you have this idea, this passion that you have, like just go for it. You know what I mean? Like he's a living example of what success looks like when you just go for it. And so I just told him that. I was like, that was awesome that you started following me. I'm glad you dig my work. You're an inspiration. And I try to be that person for other people. And he's like, that's so great to hear. Like, keep killing it, man. And I just was like, okay, I got my in. I was like, you just opened a comedy club, right? Maybe you should get a mosaic for your comedy club. And he was like, I should. And I knew that he was a big Sam Kinison fan, comic from the 80s, like very, very unique individual. And so I just threw it out there. I was like, you should get a Sam Kinison bottle cap mosaic for your club. And then all caps, that's exactly what I was thinking. And it's like, yes. And I lost it. I lost my mind. And and so sorted out the details. And I made this piece for him, and I sent it down, and then I tracked that it was there, and I was like, hey Joe, the piece is there. I would love to come down and mount the piece for you. I've been looking for an excuse to hit up Austin. I hear the city is beautiful, like, good food, good music, good comedy. Like, I would love to go and visit your city and take in a little bit. And he took a little while to get back to me, and like it was like a week or two. And I looked back as to when I messaged him, and it was right when he was interviewing Donald Trump. And I was like, okay, like probably why he didn't get back to me. But then he was like, yeah, come down. Like, what works for you? Like, come down next Tuesday. I'll be here next Tuesday. I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll fly down and meet you. And he ended up hooking me up. Like, got to meet him at the club, and gave me seats to watch all the comedy from his private balcony. And like, I met all the comedians, and I was partying backstage with them after, and all this kind of stuff. And it was a very, imposter syndrome type moment, but it was really cool that this little idea that I had 18 years ago brought me to be like rubbing shoulders with some of the, greatest comedians of our time, basically. And Jelly Roll was there randomly, and I was like chatting with him, like, Jelly Roll, you're awesome. And he's like, oh, you made this art? That's awesome. So anyway, it was a really fun experience. And I'm extremely fortunate that I got to experience it, and it was unbelievable. It really was.
So how did that, like I'm curious about your even just your Instagram following. When someone like that starts following you and buys a piece from you and stuff like that, how does that affect kind of your following? Did you see a jump at that point?
I saw a little jump, but to be completely honest, at the time I was kind of going through this massive growth anyway. Like I
Hmm.
think I'm trying to remember. I should be better at tracking like followers and all that stuff, but I'm not the best. I think at the time when he started following me, I was maybe at like 25,000 followers on Instagram. And then when I went down there and like kind of documented the whole experience, and then he gave me a shout out on his podcast. Um, I was already going through this big growth period. And then by that point, I think I had already reached maybe 75, 80,000 followers, and it was just kind of still growing. So I didn't notice a huge jump, and I had a few celebrities follow me after that, or through that maybe. But yeah, not like a crazy like, whoa, I just got like 100,000 followers overnight kind of thing. It
Right.
wasn't that. I didn't know what to expect. I thought maybe it would happen, but it
Yeah,
didn't really happen that way, and that's fine. I'm still kind of charting my own path, and he gave me a
totally.
little boost along the way.
That's awesome. And what was his reaction like when you were then able to be with him and the piece and you hung it up? What was his reaction to seeing it in person?
So I didn't get to see him see it for the first time, but when
Okay.
I met him, he was in between sets, and I went to the green room, and his essentially his head of security came and like brought me to Joe and was like, "Hey, this is the bottle cap artist." And I went in for a handshake. He shook my hand, and then he just pulled me in for like the biggest bear hug. He's like, "Man, that piece is so cool." And I'm like, I'm so glad you love it. And I just started kind of going through the whole description of all these caps that I hid within, and like all the unique things that I did like just for that piece that were
Hmm.
different from any other piece. And he just was like super happy with it. And he's like, I can't wait. I'll give you a shout out on my Instagram. And like, he didn't say he was going to talk about it on the podcast, but he's talked about it a couple times on his podcast now. And it's just really cool that, uh, he enjoys that so much that he feels the need to spread the word. So yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a very humbling experience to have someone like
Yeah.
that, share.
When I saw that, I was just like, I had goosebumps. I was like, oh man, how cool is that? So yeah, very, very cool.
Yeah.
I'm curious because so bottle caps, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of breweries are going away from bottles and
Oh yeah.
into cans. So what's your thought process there? Like, is there still like plenty of bottle caps? You don't have to worry about it, or have you toyed with different mediums, or what's your vision there?
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that there are fewer and fewer bottles, especially in Alberta. I don't know what the rest of Canada is like, but I would assume a lot of other, breweries in Ontario and Quebec and BC are moving to cans just for the financial benefit and whatnot. So I have noticed that, but I have this steady influx of people just reaching out to me saying, "Hey man, I saw your work with the bottle caps, and I've been saving caps for X number of years, and I
Hmm.
don't know why, but after seeing your work, I'd love to donate them to you and see my caps, be used in your work."
Yeah.
And I literally get reached out like at least 1, 2, sometimes like 5 times a week. People will reach out to me and just send me caps. So I have a PO box that people can send caps to, and I get caps from all over the world. And
That's
there's a lot of beers that are still in bottles. I wish there was more of our local Alberta beers, because we had such a really cool mix. I look
mm-hmm.
through, like, especially with the pieces that I made for ABF and your offices.
Mm-hmm.
I scoured through my whole collection just to find as many of the Alberta beer caps as I could to
Right.
include those, and some BC and Saskatchewan and stuff too. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I'm planning on releasing one of those like really sad PSAs with like the Sarah McLachlan music, just saying, breweries, please start bottling again. Like, just save me as an artist. Like,
Yeah, no
I
kidding,
need
eh?
these, just kind of being funny. But I feel like maybe it'll be one of those things that it'll come around again one day. Like, bottles will be nostalgic again.
Right.
And then, breweries will do like a limited run of like, stubbies or those
Yeah.
bombers or something, and more will come around and stuff like that. But yeah, um, I've been actually, speaking of Alberta breweries, Village Brewery, they went strictly to canning their beers, and so they
Yeah.
had all these bottle caps that they were just about to like send to the recycling depot. And Jen from Wild Winds reached out to me because she was visiting them one day, and she's like, "What are you guys doing with all these bottle caps?" And they're like, "Oh, we're just going to recycle them." And she's like, "Have you not heard of the bottle cap artist?" And so she connected us, and I
Oh,
was like,
good.
"Yeah, I'll take them." So I arranged the freight, and they got freighted up, and they literally plopped them down on my front lawn, and I brought them into my house. And I think they gave me all they had left, which was over 600,000 bottle caps. So
Holy
I
shit.
won't be running out of those Black Village caps for a long time.
Oh,
So
that's
um,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking about them specifically because I know they obviously, yeah, they went from bottle to can. I'm like, yeah, where do they put those? So okay,
I
the
got
word is out. Yeah.
yeah.
Send
And yeah, I
you.
guess that maybe I should use this as a platform to all the other breweries. If you have any caps left that you don't want,
Yeah.
reach out to me and I'll take them.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. And so the other reason I wanted to ask you about the potential or the idea of changing kind of um,
Medium.
your art, your mediums is, I remember you and I were talking a couple years ago about an Abraham Lincoln piece that I think
Mm.
you were in the process of doing, or you had just like
Planning it at
you
that
were
point, I
planning it.
think. Yeah.
But then I was looking on your social media a while ago and I saw that piece.
Hmm.
And it looked really, really cool. So maybe talk a little bit about that particular piece and how you were able to do it because it's a totally different medium, yet it turned out amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a totally different medium, and I had never done collage. So to give people a little bit of a backstory, one of my clients that I had at that time when we had our last podcast, he revealed to me that he was like kind of a big deal in the paper American newspaper, kind of like old historical documents collectors society, that world. He was, had a lot of papers and stuff, and so he had a lot of stuff that was just kind of like almost worthless to him from back in the day. Even the 1700s, 1800s, it's either ripped or incomplete or damaged somehow, whatever it may be. So it's essentially worthless. It's authentic, but it's worthless. And so he's like, what if I send you this box of papers and you kind of just figure something out and we can sell it together? And so I said, yeah, I'll give it a go. Why not? Like, I want to push myself. Like, the bottle caps, that's great. It's going well and stuff. But like, of course, to diversify and try different things sounds like a good idea. So took it in, and my strength, as I've mentioned, is portraits. And so I have all these newspapers and manuscripts and all this kind of stuff from the Civil War. And I was like, okay, well, like Abraham Lincoln, it's got to be Lincoln. So I rang up an artist friend of mine from Calgary. Ringo's my uncle, Brian Craig. He's a collage artist in Calgary. Check out his work if you want to look at some cool collages. I just asked him like, just give me the Cole's notes on like what I should do with collage, and he's like, oh yeah, like use this kind of adhesive and blah blah blah. He said, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I just have all these Civil War era newspapers that I'm going to try to turn into a collage portrait of Lincoln. And he's like, are you nuts? Like they're real, like authentic Civil, like from the 1860s. I was like, yeah. He's like, aren't you nervous? I was like, yeah, I probably should be, but like I have this vision in my head of how it should look. And I've, looked through all of the newspapers and these cool illustrations, and I think I can piece it together. And he's like, okay, man, like best of luck with that. And yeah, so I got to work, and I think it was just because I could really picture how it would look with the different shades of newspapers. And it was like a history lesson making that thing too, because I went through all these papers and I was reading them to find all the best articles and find the most interesting illustrations of like Lincoln walking down the White House steps like on the first Thanksgiving, and like even an illustration of Booth jumping out of the, after he shot Lincoln in the head, he's like jumping out and running away and all this kind of stuff. And like, it was just like the coolest experience, just seeing and taking in all this history. And these are newspapers, like some of the newspapers had little, coffee rings on them. Like, so someone back in the 1860s in like, Georgia or something, was reading this newspaper like, like Lincoln got shot, and like, having his coffee with his wife or something. And, it was really cool. It kind of just like took me back and put me into the perspective of these people from the 1860s. And yeah, like that thing, I poured my heart and soul into that thing. That was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. And then it went into an auction and ended up selling for like 23 grand US. And it was cool. I was like all over the news in the States and in Canada and stuff for this thing that I made. And I'm hoping to, keep trying stuff like that. I just got a whole bunch of these really old cigar labels and like magazine ads from all these cigar companies and stuff like that from way back when. So I think I'm going to try something with that next. And then from that, I also got a whole bunch of Edmonton Oilers like programs and posters and hockey cards from the 80s. So I've got some ideas on making something similar with maybe like a Gretzky piece, or like doing like, Mount Rushmore of the Oilers greats of the 80s or something like that. So yeah, it's really cool that, that was a proof of concept, and it obviously worked. And I now have that kind of skill under my belt as well. And I'm excited to try different things like that as well too. So
I love that.
Always thinking of new ideas for sure.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big Oilers fan. So
fantastic.
Yeah, actually behind me is a picture of my mom with Wayne Gretzky.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
She used to get mad at me in when I was growing up. If I was like on the phone talking with friends, she'd be like, hang up the phone and go in the living room and watch the Oilers. Like, she'd be mad and she still texts me before an Oilers game, are you watching the game? So yeah.
Awesome.
So if you did the Mount Rushmore of Edmonton, who is on that? Like, obviously Gretzky,
Messier, Curry, Coffee. I don't know.
I know, that's the thing, is like 3 is hard. Hey.
Yeah. I think it would have to be 4. Yeah. Or 5. I don't know. Yeah. I'll think about that. Yeah. I'm excited.
That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
So your inspiration, does it often come from like, because I guess clients are coming to you and saying, hey, I want this piece. But what's the balance between doing pieces for clients, but then just doing pieces that you're inspired to do?
Yeah, that's one thing that I think I've been struggling the most over the last 3 years, is because I have this steady influx of commissions, and I'm extremely grateful for that. A lot of artists can't say that, I'm booked over a year out right now with commissions for pieces, for people all over the world, really. And it's amazing. But that puts a lot of pressure on me to get those done in a certain, I tell them it's going to be a year, and I'm like, that's loads of time. And then like almost a year goes by, and I'm like, wow, like I actually told them like this will be complete August 1st, and it's, mid-July right now. So I have to hunker down and get this thing done. So that's one thing that I have been struggling with. I'm just going to tell people I need a little bit more time. Like, I'm going to tell people maybe 14, 16 months now to give myself that relief of like, okay, I have time to try some new subject matter, new mediums, new, just whatever it may be. So yeah, that's one thing I've been struggling with, that I'm trying to work on. But again, I am extremely fortunate that I have this many clients that are willing to wait that long for these pieces. So yeah.
So, and then do you ever how do you just ship them off to them? Like, is there ever opportunities to like, because I'm guessing like, going back to your Chicago example, or even Joe Rogan, if the opportunity presented itself to actually be able to deliver it in person, a lot of times that'd be pretty awesome.
I would love to deliver every single piece to the clients, but like that just doesn't make sense fiscally. Like, I'm just, I would be flying somewhere new every 2 weeks, essentially. Like it
Yeah.
usually takes me about 2 weeks to make a piece. I would love to. Anytime there's a client in Edmonton, I will deliver it.
Yeah.
Even Calgary, I have family in Calgary and stuff. So not too long ago, it was about a month ago. I have this family that actually commissioned 2 pieces, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a little family trip out of it. I will deliver these pieces to you, do the grand reveal, and like we can discuss like all the symbolism that I've included within the pieces and stuff. So if I could, yeah, I would definitely go to every single piece, but otherwise, or every single client. Otherwise, yeah, I'm shipping them off. Just because I'm only one guy and I can't be flying all. I would love to. I would love to fly everywhere and meet every client, but
It'd be sweet.
It would, yeah, absolutely.
So when you are in the process of creating one of these, I'm guessing, like you said, like there is a time crunch, and before you know it, it's like, shit, I promised it at this time, and it's getting to that point. I'm guessing that there's moments when you're in the middle of doing something and either you have like a creative block, or you just, like you said, maybe you just can't get the eyes right, or there's something that's just irritating you. If that happens, what's your process of kind of stepping back and kind of like regaining your composure? Do you have something that do you have a process there?
Yeah, if I'm hitting a bit of a block and I'm just really not happy with how something's coming out, you just got to step away. You just got to clear your mind and think about something else. So I'll usually just take my dog for a walk, or I do these sensory deprivation tanks, and those are if you ever had the chance to do one. Have you ever tried
No, I've never done it.
You should. Like if there's a place near you, try it out. It's really cool. Like essentially you're laying in a tub of water that has like 2,000 pounds of Epsom salts dissolved into it. So you're extremely buoyant. Like you lay there, and I've even fallen asleep in these things, and there's no fear of turning over because your body just like self-corrects and you just lay there perfectly still. The water is the same temperature as your skin. The room is completely dark, completely soundproof. So there is no input into your brain, and you can just let your mind just like open up and wander and come up with these ideas. Or sometimes people panic and they need to get let out. But I love being in there. It's so cool being just completely isolated from the outside world, because then your brain, instead of just taking in all these inputs, has to create its own inputs. And so you're just allowed to wander. And that's oftentimes I'll come out of there and just like go straight to my phone and like write down all these ideas that I have for art that I want to create one day. And that's a really good reset for me. And even just like just from like a social standpoint, or just a familial standpoint, going in one of those float tanks, it just totally kind of resets you. So that's a really good mental, clear the mental block kind of thing that I like to do. So yeah, try it out. I
would for sure. Yeah, I know there's a few. Dylan, one of my partners, who he's recommended that a few times. So yeah, maybe I should do that.
Yeah, if you're ever in a spot where things are just getting a little hectic and you need a little bit of like a mental reset, try it out. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Unless you're claustrophobic.
What's that?
Unless you're claustrophobic.
It's one of those things. It's like you might not even know if you are until you're in there, and it's like, oh yeah, I am. So
yeah.
No, I think I could handle it. So looking at all the pieces that you've created, is there one that you look at that is particularly meaningful to you? Or
yeah, I would like, they're all meaningful. They're all I love them all. It's like my children. You can't pick a favorite kind of thing, right? But I think of all of them, if I had to pick one, I would say the second Anthony Bourdain piece that I made. That's one that I really tried to focus on, like bringing it to life in a very symbolic way. I went through all of my caps and found caps that really pertained to his life and his career, and him being from the service industry. We had that in common. I was front of house, he was back of house. It's the same. We're under the same roof here, essentially, right? So it's just like kind of having that in common, and like knowing he's gone through a lot of the things that a lot of people in the service industry have gone through. Like anyone who's worked in a bar or a restaurant knows that, like, there's some pretty like insane times that you go through. And a lot of people that I talk to, like, I swear you get PTSD from working in a bar or a restaurant, just like the stress that you go through. Some people are like, it's an easy job. You bring people their drinks, you bring people their food. That's it. It's so much more than that. I was essentially a psychiatrist. I was giving people advice all the time, whether or not it was correct or not, but like I was always there to listen, and I'm talking through people's problems and, trying to make 1,000 drinks at once and talking to this customer over here because they're upset that their beef dip was cold or something like that. You know what I mean? And so it's just one of those things that, with Anthony Bourdain, like, I know he went through all of this stuff, and he was just such an authentic and genuine person. And he saw humanity from this lens that a lot of people don't. Like, he talked to anybody, and he would sit down and have a bowl of noodles in some corner alley little family restaurant in Vietnam and have a conversation with them. And I just thought that was super cool. So when I was making that piece, I was just really focused on, I'm going to pour myself into this and like connect with him. And I was listening to, as I'm working, I'm listening to like Parts Unknown and, all of these episodes that he was in. And it was just, I think that was the one that kind of almost like really shifted my focus on attention to detail with the caps that I include in the pieces. And it really got me thinking, like, each cap, every time someone's having a beer, it's either because they're celebrating something, or they're maybe like trying to drown their sorrows, or they're, whatever, they're on their first date or whatever it may be. So these little caps are there and they're present for all of these moments that we experience as humans. And when they make their way to me, I'm taking all of these little silent witnesses, as I call them, and I put them together, and it's almost like the memories of all of these people's experiences are now in a piece of art. And I think that's something that, like, maybe people sort of resonate with that, and that's why it's, kind of exploded as far as my art form. People are like, wow, like, like I said earlier, oh, remember that time when we drank those Pacificos in Mexico, right? It's just like you're immediately transported to a time in your past, whether it be an amazing time or a sorrow or whatever it is, right? So there's just human emotion attached to them, and so many people overlook that, and I'm taking it and like shoving it in your face. Look at, this is human emotion.
And that's what I was thinking about, like delivering the product yourself, the piece of art, because I'm sure there's so much that you put into it, those little attention to details that you would love to describe to each of your clients. There's so much that goes into it that the average human being isn't gonna, it's subtle, right? But it's just like, it's this, all these layers of subtlety that kind of go into it. So yeah, I'm sure there's a party that's just like, I want to walk you through.
I would love to, but that's kind of almost part of the beauty of the pieces as well, is through time, someone will be sitting on their couch looking at the piece and go, oh, that cap right there is, and it's kind of symbolic to either their life as the client. I will do that often. I'll talk to the clients and ask them about their lives and try and include, little fragments of something that would be personal to them, and then also the subject. And so through time, they may not notice it the first day. They might not notice it the first week. Maybe it'll take 10 years before they see that one cap that I put there on purpose and go, that was a cool like decision that Jeff made to put that there. So yeah, I think that's part of the reason that, it's also successful, is just like the amount of thought and detail and symbolism that I put into these pieces is like really cool for the clients.
Absolutely. Is there a client, like a dream client that you have, or a dream organization that you'd like to do a piece for?
Oh man. Well, I'm a huge Oilers fan too, so Edmonton Oilers, if you're listening, let me know. That would be cool. That would be awesome. Other than that, like, I wouldn't say there's particularly like a dream client. It would be obviously really cool to like have other celebrities reach out to me or whatever, but I'm perfectly happy like never selling a piece to a celebrity again and just connecting with people on a personal basis, and
Mhm.
just, hey, like, you're a big fan of so and so. Oh, okay, I would love to create that for you. Like, let's talk about it. Like, why are you such a fan of this person, or whatever it may be. Or like recently, I made some pieces that were really different, like an African elephant that had all of these things hidden within the piece itself, like a Batman symbol, because the family was like huge into Batman, and a maple leaf because their uncle was in the Air Force, and all this kind of stuff. So things like that are super fun and fulfilling for me too. So I wouldn't say I have a dream client, but we'll see what
Yeah.
happens, right?
So with being an Oilers fan, what if the Flames came to you and said, "Are you like a Oilers fan? Screw the Flames," or would you come to the?
No, I would do a piece for the Flames too. Like, it's, if they wanted a piece, I would be like, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, let's talk. I've made Flames pieces for people in Calgary before. Actually, one that I almost said no to, that I'm in the midst of kind of solidifying the piece, is this guy in Florida reached out to me for a Matthew Tkachuk piece, and I was just like,
Oh yeah.
as an Oilers fan, I'm like, like, I don't know if I want to do this. So I ended up coming around and being like, okay, well, this is a good paycheck.
Good business decision.
Yeah, I don't know. I might have to hide a couple things in there that are like,
100%.
transfers, but I'll do my best to check myself before I start that one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I mean, from where you started to where you are now, I mean, it's kind of to me, it's an absolutely amazing story. What does the future, like, if you could fantasize about what this looks like 5 years from now, what does it look like?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I think about that pretty often. I'm really happy with where I'm at. I like doing portraits. I know it's kind of like, some artists are like, you're doing portraits of famous people. Good for you. Okay, that's great. It's working for me. So
Yeah,
be it. I
it's
like what
called
I'm
my
doing.
niche. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called my niche. But there is, I am still creative and an artist, and I want to push myself and see what I can do. So I do have a lot of ideas that I want to flesh out, and eventually, bring them to certain, like, art prizes or art fairs or art competitions, just to kind of see where I'm at. Like, it's, you shouldn't compare yourself to other artists, but at the same time, I just kind of want to, like, test the waters and, like, come up with, like, a really cool subject matter, and, like, either create a series or do a one-off or whatever it may be, and just throw it out there and, like, see what the art world thinks of what I do. So yeah, that's kind of one thing that I would like to explore. Ideally, it would be really cool to just create whatever I want and then it sell. So that would be something that I would like to do, make a name for myself, and, whatever I make, there's going to be someone who wants to buy it. And so far I've been pretty lucky in that I have a lot of clients that are, commissioned pieces. And then I do create pieces every now and then that I just think I want to do and would be cool. And those end up selling too. And so, like, I'm in a pretty good spot. So
Nice.
yeah, I guess maybe just more balance between commissions and, like, making pieces that I would like to make. That would be my ideal scenario.
Because at the end of the day, the commissions kind of take priority, I would imagine, right? Because it's like, those are the time crunches.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I still love doing it. If nothing changed in my life in the next 5 years, I would be happy. And that's a true statement.
Yeah, that's the definition of success right there.
I guess so. Yeah, this is it.
yeah, exactly.
Did I
awesome,
make it?
man?
I don't know.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for sharing the story.
Yeah,
yeah, it's been fun just kind of watching you just blow up and become, what you are. And despite the fact that you're doing a Tkachuk portrait, but
yeah, I mean, it still has time to fall through. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see. This guy might not be, signing the contract, and I'd be okay with that.
Awesome, man. Okay, well, thanks a lot. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Mark. That was awesome.
Okay, thanks so much for listening to the Create Podcast. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. See you next Wednesday.